down. I feel like we need to get back to direct to consumer, because we're fighting to get into these stores that aren't even paying us. Can you imagine all your blood, sweat, and tears? You've put everything into your business. You have gone on social media and you have told the world, I am now in Saks. I am now in Barney's. We saw this with Barney's. I am now in Barney's. I am now at Bergdorf's. I am now at Bloomingdale's. And people show up and they purchase and you are elated and you're like, yes. And then they don't give you your money. Mighty God. That hurts my heart. Having worked with designers, I don't even know I can't say a letdown, but like, what do you do? Because again, that is the money that you were using. If you are a smart student, which most of my students are, having me as a professor, you're going to put that money back into the business. And now you're just here. And you may have spent money that you didn't have, depending on money that you were going to make. Oh my God. Anyway.
Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never ran, said no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Hello, my darlings, it's Dion Dean. Welcome back to another video. We are long overdue for a fashion and retail chat, and there is so much juicy stuff going on in the world. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but as it relates to retailing and merchandising, there's a lot of information happening. And so that being said, for those of you who are new to the channel, we've had a lot of new people added to our community over the last couple of months. So hey there, hi there, how y'all doing? Welcome. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I am actually a former retailing and merchandising professor. And so if you've come to my channel by way of my shorts or by way of my shopping videos, know that I'm not just out there shopping in vain. This is something that I actually do for a living, or did do until 2021, when I was the lead faculty over the fashion program at Johnson & Wales University in North Miami. The institution has now closed. But prior to that, I taught in Dallas and I taught in Chicago. And so, yeah, I love being in the stores, and let's get it together now. I love to shop. This is not just an academic thing. I do love to shop, but I really just love seeing what's happening in the stores. I love to watch the markdown cadence. I love to see what's new. I love to see how, different stores are interpreting style. And so, yes, this is my jam. Anyway, let's get into it. We're going to talk briefly about tariffs, and we're going to talk about it as it relates to retailing and merchandising. And so with the fashion chat, so if this is your first fashion chat, what I like to do, because I'm not in the classroom, and so I do not have a place to go and teach. And so for me, what I like to do is bring these conversations to the table as if you guys were in the classroom. Okay, so we're going to talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about, is Fashion Week dead? We're going to talk about Saks, and we're going to talk about Dillard's. And then just ended on the note of, is fashion and retail in a state of flux, of which I do think that is the case. And so I have my notes here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So as it relates to tariffs, I'm not going to get into it that much, because trade agreements and tariffs, that really is an entire semester long course. It's not something that can be easily explained. It's not something that, as we can see, is easily understood, right? A lot of times us as consumers, as laymen, we don't understand what's going on behind closed doors as it relates to imports and exports, and what has a tariff on it and what does not. How we typically find out is when we go to the store to purchase something and it's more expensive or it's less expensive. That's when we get an understanding of tariffs. I know as it relates to the Dean household, I can't speak about nobody else, but I'm going to give you a little bit of tea. If you want a washing machine or a dryer this year, a fridge or a dishwasher, get that thing down. I know that we're going around the house as we prepare for hurricane season. A lot of times I'll say stuff in the shop with me videos. I'm like, hold on now, I want to purchase that, but give me a minute, because we're looking to get a new hot water heater. I'm giving you the tea. We want to get the windows done, as again, we're prepping the house for hurricane season. We're going to get the roof kind of like all of that stuff. I'm just going to say, if that's what you want this year, get that now. Work on getting that now. Okay. I'm just going to say that. So tariffs, what I would say in the classroom is the conversation in itself is hurting us. just because people just don't want to come here anymore. And we are a lot of what is, and I say this for someone who lives in South Florida, those of you who live in a New York and a Chicago or a city in Las Vegas, a place where you get a heavy, that receives heavy tourist traffic. When a whole country says that they are not coming to the United States, and again, I say this from the perspective of someone who lives in South Florida. We have a lot of money coming in from Canada by way of those who have their second homes here, from those who purchase their homes here, from those who, because, you buy a house, you furnish the house, you shop here, you've lived here, you live here 6 months out of the year. Now we're having people saying we're not going to do that. That's going to affect our economy, right? When we are and I say this in the videos a lot, we are the shopping hub for Central South America or Caribbean. And when we hear people say when we are hearing people say that they are not coming here, that they are not shopping here, they would rather go from Canada to Mexico, or they would rather go from Canada to Europe, or they would rather go from Mexico to Canada. Like, when we're hearing that conversation of them just bypassing South Florida altogether, bypassing in New York, bypassing in LA, that hurts the economy and it hurts small businesses. And so what would I say to my students that are graduating, that are looking to build their fashion lines, that are looking to work at retail entities? Because guess what? If we don't shop retail, right? If the retailer does not make a profit, the retailer does not hire. They cut their budget, right? And so you're going out into the world, you have this degree, and you want to work for this brand that just doesn't have the money to pay you. And what I would say to those students is to hold fast. The pendulum always swings the other way. When I graduated my undergrad in 2001. I graduated in April. I moved to Atlanta in August, and then September 11th happened. And I just remember feeling gutted because business changed. And anybody who graduated during that time, not business, that's really horrible to say. The world changed after that. And so it was a very scary time for those of us who were in college and in school during the Gulf War, so I would say to my students to hold fast. The pendulum always swings the other way. What I would do is get that resume together, start being an apprentice, an intern. If maybe you cannot go to New York right now, maybe you hunker down where you are. Social media, one of the things that I think is such a blessing to my students now is with social media, you can build your business wherever you are. Yes, you want to be in New York, you want to be in an LA, you want to be in a Chicago, you want to be in a Paris, but for right now, right, hold fast, hold steady, because it is a scary place to have a retail entity. Even the big boys, and I'm going to talk to you about Dillard's, even the big boys are like, what's going on? There are a lot of doors shutting right now in terms of retail doors, and so it's affecting the economy indirectly in that people just do not want to be associated. They do not want to travel here. And we're seeing it specifically with Canada, the effects of what's going on. And we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it. And so, yes. And it's hurting consumer confidence because we're finally getting to understand that regardless of the administration, and let me be very clear that I am not on par with the current administration, but I will say in all fairness, this trade agreement, trade war, like this is not something that just started. There are some tariffs that were in place in the previous administration. The North America Free Trade Agreement was actually launched or created during the Clinton administration, and that, say what you will about that, that took a lot of jobs from the United States. So it's not just this administration. These are conversations that are happening behind closed doors, unaware to us. They're now brought out to the front table, right? So it's hurting consumer confidence as well. Even if you have the money to spend, you just don't feel comfortable spending it nilly-willy in that way. As I've mentioned, I know for our household, we're like, let me go ahead and look at my appliances. Let me go ahead and, take care of what needs to be taken care of. We're hunkering down at this point, right? So the second thing, I hope I made that clear, right? So the second thing I want to talk about is Fashion Week dead? I would say yes. I think Fashion Month, as we've known it, dies a little every year. But I think that's what it's supposed to do. I think that we as an industry, and I say we as a former educator within the industry, teaching retailing and merchandising, we have to grow and evolve. And so no, this is not, because I've seen and heard conversations about Bryant. I came up in the Bryant Park era and the Lincoln Center era. Okay, that's where the shows used to be. And if you watch Sex and the City, you remember them going to Bryant Park. And of course, that was like the golden era, right? The 90s supermodel. But we're not there. And that's okay. It's okay to evolve and grow. I think that, hold on, Maverick's in here. He's dreaming. It's supposed to grow and evolve. So yes, Fashion Week as we have known it, yes, has died, is dying. But we are now evolving into something really, really beautiful. And so the Fashion Weeks, New York, London, Paris and Milan, but now it's evolved, right? So now we have Copenhagen. Now we have shows going on in Africa. Now we have shows going on in Australia. And so, okay, so there's, first of all, there were no, let's be for real about fashion, okay? Because as much, and please don't come for me if you're in New York, don't come for me, okay? There are two cities that whenever I think about fashion, Seattle, Chicago, I think Detroit has their own type of style. We have Miami Swim Week. Miami to me doesn't have the greatest style, but one thing we do have down here in South Florida, our sandal game, our swimsuit game, our sundress summit, like we got that on lock. Okay, I think there's a show in Brazil. So there is fashion happening on so many different parts of the globe. For us to just say, oh, fashion month and fashion only happens in New York and London and Paris and Milan, no. So I will say that it's dying, but it's evolving and it's growing into something more beautiful. One of the things that I also want to add is, because we talk about influencers at Fashion Week. Listen, exposure is exposure. As someone, again, who has worked with designers, I'm always looking for them to partner with individuals that are going to give them more exposure to brands. The only backside of that is that if you only bring us exposure, right? Because the other question is that you got exposure, but from that exposure, how many orders did you receive, right? Because historically, fashion weeks are for merchants, they're for buyers, they're for editors to expose the brand, to purchase from the brand, so that us as a consumer have clothes to purchase. So I do believe in I do see the value of influencers being in those spaces. What I would love to see more of are entities like Harlem Fashion Row, giving air and giving air and giving exposure to brands that we are not that familiar with. I love that, and I want to see more of that. But I also, this is just me, okay? I want to see that at Essence Fest. I want to see more of that at Afrotech. I want to see that at the Roots Picnic. I want to see that in spaces that are traditionally ours, right? Where we can highlight brands and different entities that we may not know more of. And I feel like Essence Fest, it's like 4 or 5 days. Like, abso-friggin-lutely. Hold on, what is going on outside? I think FPL is drilling. There's something, as we're getting ready for hurricane season. So this is when all that stuff happens. Something's happening. Anyway, well, I lost my train of thought. But I want to see more fashion happening in other spaces and not just holding out for a fashion week. I think, yeah, that's what I want to see. Okay, guys, I apologize. I think they're drilling, and I don't know if you can hear it, but I don't think it's going to go away. Oh, it's dying down. Okay. Another reason, we're going to move on to Saks now. I'm going to leave this article up here. Another reason why Fashion Week is changing is because these big brands, these big stores, these big retailers are not paying their bills. Saks is not paying their vendors, guys. What does that mean? That means we go to a Fashion Week and we see an emerging brand, and this emerging brand has a pop-up, has a trunk show, maybe they're a launch at Saks, at Neiman's, at Bergdorf's, and you go to support that brand at those stores, and you buy that bag, you buy that shoe, you buy that piece of clothing, and they are not seeing that money for sometimes up to a year later. What does that do for a brand who needs that money to reinvest in their business, to give you something new and innovative? What does that do for a brand who is relying on that money to host another fashion show? And it has been very interesting to watch how even big brands are scaling back. So not even to mention some of the smaller brands that had these huge shows at one point, or maybe they just had a show and now they're just having a showroom, or maybe they're not even having a showroom. Maybe they're just having, a party or whatever. Like, they're not scaling big because they can't, because Saks has not paid them. So what is a small brand to do? And we've talked about this, me in the classroom. I'm a big advocate of going back to the Tupperware party model, where, students start going into people's homes. They build a community. They have, in South Florida, we have a lot of these parties going on, right? But you partner up with an entity that's doing this, that, and the other, and you do a trunk show at somebody's home. You find one of your clients who has 10 girlfriends, and you say, hey, let's have a barbecue. I'll bring my whole line. Like, let's get back to that. Let's get back to that. Because to be honest, that's how we grew in the first place. Can I tell it like I'm going to tell it? I don't know about any other culture, but I know us Jamaicans. We'll have somebody come over, and I don't have to say anymore. You picking up what I'm putting down. I feel like we need to get back to direct to consumer, because we're fighting to get into these stores that aren't even paying us. Can you imagine all your blood, sweat, and tears? You've put everything into your business. You have gone on social media and you have told the world, I am now in Saks. I am now in Barney's. We saw this with Barney's. I am now in Barney's. I am now at Bergdorf's. I am now at Bloomingdale's. And people show up and they purchase and you are elated and you're like, yes. And then they don't give you your money. Mighty God. That hurts my heart. Having worked with designers, I don't even know I can't say a letdown, but like, what do you do? Because again, that is the money that you were using. If you are a smart student, which most of my students are, having me as a professor, you're going to put that money back into the business. And now you're just here, and you may have spent money that you didn't have, depending on money that you were going to make. Oh my God. Anyway, so as a consumer, what do? We buy direct to consumer. That's what I'm going to say. I know it's a big flex to say you done shopped at Saks and you done shopped at Neiman's. Okay, I understand it. But if it benefits the brand more for you to shop their website, then shop their website. If it benefits you more to go to their actual store, if they have a brick and mortar, then go to their store. Because as much as you have the flex of carrying, is the bag even silver anymore? What color is the Saks bag? Black, red, whatever it is. The flex of carrying that bag means nothing for that designer who is depending on that money to put back into their business. That's what I want to say from that article. I hope I made myself clear with that one. Dillard's. So what I want to say about Dillard's, and I specifically looked at this article because I feel like Dillard's, to me, not so much on the plus size line, they can keep that. I feel like Dillard's is listening to their customer, as I talked about in the TJMaxx video earlier this week. I like when brands listen to their customer. For you to have all this data, and yes, they are collecting data whether we like it or not, to have all this data on us and drop the ball is just stupid. It's like you have all this data. You can literally look at last season's sales and see what sold and see what didn't, and make decisions accordingly. So Dillard's is doing really well, but not better than the off-price retailers. TJMaxx, Marshalls, Ross, Burlington, they are smoking these anchor stores. They're smoking Dillard's. They're smoking Macy's. They're smoking all of these stores. And it is because the consumer is wising up. They're wising up, and they're doing some comparison shopping. Now, the one thing that I think that Dillard's is doing, and I also really think that Macy's is doing well, just on a smaller scale. I know that you guys love my Macy's videos, and I get a lot of comments that your Macy's doesn't look like my Macy's, as well as your TJMaxx doesn't look at my TJMaxx. And to that, I say, come down to South Florida. Come on for a visit. As well as they are doing, and I think that Dillard's is extremely fashion forward, and I think that is what is keeping them afloat. I don't think they do a great job of marketing that. Hey, Dillard's, if you want to sponsor a video, come on. But I think that those brands that are really paying attention to their customer and really paying attention to the fashion world as it stands are going to make it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which ties into this, is fashion and retail in a state of flux. Yes. They need a reset. Retail needs a reset. There is no reason why Macy's and Burlington should carry the same bag. Okay? Some of you may argue that. I think that each store needs to be known for something, and I feel like these big stores are trying to satisfy every customer. And listen, I shop at Burlington. We all know this. I shop at a Ross. We all know this too. But if I can go to Ross for the same bag at a quarter of the price, why would I go to Macy's? You get what I'm saying? So I feel like we need a reset. I feel like Dillard's is going through a reset. I think that they're trying to rediscover who they are and rediscover their person. I think that's why they've done better than the rest of the stores, is because they are very active in that. Because they are competing with TJMaxx, and they are competing with Marshalls, and they are competing with the outlets. They absolutely are. So if you are competing with those brands, I would say take yourself out of the competition and do not sell the brands. Do not sell the brands that you don't want to be known for. That's what I'll say. Especially if you, and I'm a Macy's girl. If you're unaware, I was a part of the executive training program. That's how I ended up in Atlanta at Macy's South. Back then it was Rich's Lazarus Goldsmiths. And so that's why I'm preferential to Macy's. It's always going to be my go-to. It just always is. But that being said, like, stay there, like, be Macy's. Stop trying to grab everybody. And that's the issue that I have with Backstage. I know a lot of you love Backstage, and that's not a slight to you. That really isn't. It is to say that do your, you know how you talk to your kids. I know for me, I know I talk to Riley, and I'm like, don't half do things. I'm about to say half-ass. Don't half do things. Okay, baby girl. Do this really, really well, and then move on to something else. But don't do this halfway and this halfway and this quarter way. And no, like, be Macy's. Like, get that together, and then you can think about being Macy's Backstage, or do Macy's really well and send all your last act to Backstage. But being here and then you're selling this bag, and then you have 8,000 private label brands. Like, it's just so confusing. So I feel like they need to do a reset, or else there's going to be a lot more store closures. Because if I know that I can get such and such, like, I could not imagine, real talk, getting a Dooney from Macy's. Although they may have some really great ones, I could not imagine getting a Brahmin bag from Dillard's, yes. But I could not imagine getting a Brahmin bag from Macy's. Number one, we got a Brahmin outlet, so. But, you know, would I get the Donna Karan line there? Yes. Would I get the Michael Kors shoes there? Yes. Would I get Carolina Herrera makeup there? Yes. Would I buy Dior perfume there? Yes. Those things, hotel collection, the home collection, bar none. Macy's home collection, the hotel collection, yeah. Do those things well, and don't worry about the other stuff. So, like I said, my fifth point was, or the thing that I wanted to talk about is it in a state of flux? And I say yes. There's just number one, there's just too much stuff. And you guys see it on my channel. Every store is packed to the hilt. Oh my God. Every store. The thrift store is packed. I shouldn't say every store is packed, because we go into some stores and they're empty. But when I mean packed, I mean they just have too many brands. Like, not only is it in retail, we talk about depth. There's just it's wide and deep. And it's just like, no, you go into Macy's and you're like, how many different brands? Like, the shoe floor, although I really love it, it could probably do away with about a quarter of those brands, to be honest. And again, I love it. But anyway, have I gotten that all off my chest? Yeah, these are things were just on my chest, in my notebook. And I don't have a classroom. I have you guys, which is better than a classroom. So thank you for letting me just talk. If you have anything to add, let me know. I think the biggest thing with the tariff conversation, with consumer confidence, travel. I don't know how many of you are thinking about travel this summer. We typically go to Toronto once a year, England once a year, and then I do a trip abroad every year to a new country. That was the thing that I said I was going to do every year. Didn't go last year to where did they go last year? Malta? No, they went to Spain last year. I chose not to go because my mother's health was declining, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna do London because I want to see my sister. But yeah, let me know what you're thinking. Consumer confidence. Let me know what you're thinking about all of these, whether it's, buying from black and brown designers from their site. Are you going to continue to go to some of these stores that are not paying them? I know for me, I'm looking at them side-eyed. I'm like, if you're known not to pay, and I'm going to leave the article in the description box. It just really has me like, why would I spend my money with you if the designer that I want to support is not getting that money? You know what I mean? Okay. I'm empty. Let me know what you think about any of these topics in the comment section, and I appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be back in the stores this week, so don't leave me now. Don't leave me. You're going to be seeing me very, very soon. Mwah. Bye.
Go, go.